am leaving this here because it isn't being talked about enough. My spiritual awakening opened my mind, soul, in ways my body could not even begin to comprehend. And for those currently on this whirlwind journey into the divine, what I am saying becomes more relatable. There's so much talk about ego death and why it is a necessary step in this phoenix evolution, but being spiritually awakened does not mean your ego is dying or about to die. Ego death is a translation for ego awareness. The more aware of your ego you are, the more you ascend. When you rise to awareness, you realize then that your ego can be your friend when in need. Ego, like fire, can be a great ally when your higher self is in charge, but if you allow it to call the shots, it burns down everything it touches. But although fire can be destructive, it serves us well once we move from the vibration of mindlessness to mindful awareness. Ego is important for our groundedness, for self-confidence, building personal boundaries, and when it's time to reinforce that you are no crap taker, which is extremely necessary at dire situations. In these circumstances, by all means, let ego have a voice. Christ, the very personification of divine love and peaceable faith, strolled into a temple with a cane, y'all. Oh, he knew when it was time to let ego send an important message to those people. And when it was time to fulfill his destined crucifixion, he didn't let ego decide anything. In moments where compassion, empathy, love, surrender, and bonding is required, you may hear ego's contribution, but let your higher self take over nonetheless, because your higher self owns these situations which connect us to Source, God. Ego helps to keep us reminded of our responsibilities to ourselves, responsibilities that are just as important and need attention. As I awakened to all parts of me that lived in 3D ego mind, I realized I was making a 5D shift. I kept waiting for ego to die, but when it refused, I decided to befriend ego and partner with it instead. I started to train myself to hear ego and recognize when it speaks. This isn't always a breeze. Ego can be really sneaky, as we all know. Sometimes you have already let ego speak in a needless circumstance before you realize, like, oh shit, that was my ego, damn it. But it's okay, slip-ups are allowed. The more humble you think you are, the more likely your ego has perfected the art of deceiving you into believing it's not in you. Humility, I have learned, is just the ability to see your own arrogance, which is tricky as well, because if you're humble, then you are also arrogant because there is ego inside you. You're just learning how to make it work for you rather than the other way around. This journey is a learning that never ends. So I have learned. Ego says, I have, therefore I am. Soul says, I am, therefore I am. And while we learn to play the tune so ego can dance rather than dominate, let us continue to rely on the Spirit of God within us, that divine breath that gave us life, the higher self, the God side of us, to be the strummer of the instruments. The only joy that is continuous is that which is not attached to a thing, but created from within. This here is the key to realizing the need to detach from over-dependence on externalities to create our happiness. Example, people, possessions, dopamine devices such as smartphones, addictive substances, etc. The more self-aware we become, the more we can recognize the noise of our own egos in our heads, quieting the egoic rants of feelings of unworthiness that are all connected to attachment to possessions and validation seeking, which lead to much inward suffering. we start to hear our soul more from the depths of intuition and awaken into the realization that our identity is not by what we have, but by who we are. Who you are isn't what you've achieved or what you believe you own. Who you are is who you are. And who are you? Imagine yourself without everything you think you have and the reputation you've attached to yourself. Sit still and ask yourself, without all these clothes, job, home, money, friends, who am I? You are nothing but that conscious breath of life that is keeping you present. You have nothing. You own nothing. You're just a soul on a journey, a spectacularly eternal content in a transient container. And that's okay. And that's it for now on Omali Speaks. Till next time, love you babies.